Hello and welcome to today's lesson in Literature in English on Buchi Emecheta's Second Class Citizen. I am Princess Thompson. In this lesson, we'll explore the life of Adah, a young Nigerian woman who defies societal expectations and pushes against obstacles as she pursues her dreams. These novels highlight themes such as gender inequality, racism, and cultural identity, giving us a window into struggles of African women both at home and abroad. Second Class Citizen is a prose work, specifically a novel. The novel uses prose to tell the story of Adah's life, exploring themes of gender, racism, and immigration through descriptive language, character development, and a continuous narrative structure. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to summarize the story of Second Class Citizen, discuss the major themes presented in the novel, identify the main character and their roles, analyze how the novel addresses issues like discrimination, poverty, and cultural conflicts. Also, you should be able to relate the experiences of the protagonist to real-life situations. Now, let's talk about the author. Buchi Emecheta, who was born on July 21, 1944 in Lagos, Nigeria, and later moved to the United Kingdom. She was a prolific author known for her works that explore the plight of women, particularly African women, in both traditional and modern settings. Emecheta's work often draw from her own experiences, blending autobiography with fiction to address issues like gender inequality, racism, and immigrant experience. Let's examine the plot. Second Class Citizen follows the life of Adah, a young girl from Nigeria with big dreams. Despite growing up in a culture that undervalues women, she is determined to get an education and carves out a better life for herself. Her determination leads her to London, where she hopes to find more opportunities. Life in a foreign land is far from easy. Adah faces racial discrimination, financial struggles, and oppressive behavior of her husband, Francis. You see, this novel is as much about Adah's resilience as it is about the harsh reality faced by immigrants and women in a patriarchal society. Through her story, Buchi Emecheta gives us a powerful narrative about surviving against the odds and claiming one's identity. Summary of the book now. Actually, Second Class Citizen is a semi-autobiography novel that tells the story of Adah, a young Nigerian woman who struggles to rise above societal limitations. The novel opens with Adah's early life in Lagos, where she is determined to gain an education despite the cultural belief that women's roles are limited to marriage and domestic responsibilities. Adah's persistence leads her to excel academically, and she eventually marries Francis, a man who initially supports her dreams. Adah later moves to London to join Francis, hoping for a better life. But reality hits hard. She faces racial discrimination, financial struggles, and an abusive husband who is unsupportive of her ambitions. Despite these challenges, Adah remains determined to succeed, balancing motherhood, work, and her dream of becoming a writer. The novel concludes with Adah deciding to take control of her life, separating from Francis and taking steps towards independence and self-fulfillment. Now, I will start by reading the book to us from chapter 1 titled Childhood. It had all begun like a dream. You know, that sort of dream which seems to have originated from nowhere. Yet, one was always aware of its existence. One could feel it. One could be directed by it, unconsciously at first, until it became a reality, a presence. Adah did not know for sure what gave birth to her dream when it all started, but the earliest anchor she could pin down in this drift of nothingness was when she was about 8 years old. She was not even quite sure that she was exactly 8 because, you see, she was a girl. She was a girl who had arrived when everyone was expecting and predicting a boy. So, since she was such a disappointment to her parents, to her immediate family, to her tribe, nobody thought of recording her birth. She was so insignificant. One thing was certain: when she was being directed by her dream, for a younger child would not be capable of so many mischiefs. Thinking back on it all now that she was grown up, she was sorry for her parents, but it was their own fault. They should not have had that in the first place, and that would have saved a lot of people a lot of headaches. So the author here is trying to tell us that Adah is more like an unexpected child. They thought they would be getting a male child. So meanwhile, she was a female child, and because she was a female child, she was being abandoned by her family, by her community, and the likes. So I feel like that's where the gender inequality comes in place. Well, let's continue. Adah thought she was 8 at the time when her mother and all the other society women were busying themselves to welcome the very first lawyer of their own town, Ibuza. When Adah was told that Ibuza was a town, she found it difficult to understand her parents. She was told came from Ibiza, and so did many of her aunts and uncles. Ibiza were friendly, that the food there was fresh, the spring water was pure, and the air was clean. The virtues of Ibiza were praised so much that Adah came to regard being born in a god-forsaken place like Lagos as a misfortune. Her parents said that Lagos was a bad place, bad for bringing up children because, yeah, they picked up a Yoruba Mugbati accent. It was bad because it was a town with laws, a town where laws ruled supreme in Ibiza. They said, you took the law into your own hands. If a woman abused your child, you went straight into her hut, dragged her out, beat her up, or got beaten up. So if you didn't want to be dragged out and beaten up, you wouldn't abuse another woman's child. Lagos was bad because this type of behavior was not allowed. You had to learn to control your temper, which Adah was taught was against the law of nature. The Ibiza women who lived in Lagos were preparing for the arrival of the town's first lawyer from the United Kingdom. The title United Kingdom, when pronounced by Adah's father, sounded so heavy, like the type of noise one associated with bombs. It was so deep, so mysterious, that Adah's father always voiced it in hushed tones, wearing such a respectful expression as if he were speaking of God's holiest of holies. Going to the United Kingdom must surely be like paying God a visit. The United Kingdom, then, must be like a heaven. The women of Ibiza bought identical cotton material from the UAC department store and had it made into lapels and blouses of the same style. They dyed their hair and straightened it with hot combs to make it look European. Nobody in her right sense would dream welcoming a lawyer who had come from the United Kingdom with her hair left naturally in curls. They composed songs, weaving the name of the new lawyer into them. These women were so proud of the new lawyer because to them it meant the arrival of their very own Messiah, a Messiah specially created for the Ibiza people, a Messiah who would go into politics and fight for the rights of the people of Ibiza, a Messiah who would see to it that Ibiza would have electricity, that Ibiza would have the third road, which other mothers called Kota. Oh yes, Lawyer Nweze was going to do all sorts of things for the people of Ibiza. Adah's mother was a seamstress. Okay, before I continue. So yeah, they made us know that the people of Ibiza town are expecting a lawyer that comes from UK or went to study law in UK. So we see that they were trying to make their hair, trying to sew new clothes, and they're also trying to compose a new song for the lawyer, which is Lawyer Nweze. So another character is introduced to us now, Lawyer Nweze, who studied law in United Kingdom. Adah's mother was a seamstress, so she made most of the blouses. Also note that they can ask you, what is Adah's mother's occupation? So Adah's mother is a seamstress. Adah's mother was a seamstress, so she made most of the blouses. Adah was very lucky because she had some remnants from the material made into a frock for her. She still remembered the frock. It was so big for her that she made more or less swam into it. Her mother would never dream of making her a dress that was exactly her size because, you see, she would soon outgrow it. So even though she was a small girl, too skinny for her age, whatever that might be, she always had dresses for 3 or 4 sizes bigger. That was one of her reasons for liking old dresses, since by the time her dresses were old, they fitted her. Still, she was so happy with this new lawyer dress that she begged her mother to let her go with the women to the Apapa Wolf on the great day. It pained her so much when she realized that she was not going to be allowed to go because it fell on a school day. School! The Igbos never played with that. They were realizing fast that one savior from poverty and disease was education. Every Igbo family saw to it that their children attended school. Boys were usually given preference though. So even though Adah was about 8, there were still discussions about whether it would be wise to send her to school. Even if she was sent to school, it was very doubtful whether it would be wise to let her stay long. A year or 2 would do, as long as she can write her name account. Then she will learn how to sew. Adah had heard her mother say this many times to her friends. Soon, Adah's younger brother, Boy, started school. So yeah, it also made us realize that the Igbos also cherish school a lot, but they prefer the male child to attend school rather than the female child to attend school. And another character is also introduced here, which is Adah's younger brother, Boy. Let's continue. It was at this time that Adah's dream started to nudge down. Whenever she took Boy to Ladlak Institute, as the school was called, she would stand by the gate and watch all her friends lining up by the school door in the smart navy blue pinafores, looking clean and orderly. That lag was then and still is a very small preparatory school. Children were not taught Yoruba or an African language. This was why it was such an expensive school. The proprietress was trained in the United Kingdom. At that time, more than half of the children in the school were Igbos, as they were then highly motivated by the middle class values. Adah would stand there, filled with envy. This envy later gave way to frustration, which she showed in many small ways. She would lie just for the joy of lying. She took secret joy in disobeying her mother because she thought to herself, if not for Ma, Pa would have sent me to school. If not for Ma, sorry, I'm taking that part, editor. If not for Ma, Pa would have seen to it that I started school with boy. So before I continue, let me explain that part too. So we are made known that boys' school is called Ladlak Institute, and they don't teach Yoruba, non-indigenous language there, because the proprietress of the school was trained from the United Kingdom, which made the school to be more expensive. And the author also made us know that Adah always watched from afar with envy because her parents did not allow her to attend that school with her younger brother. And also, if not for her mother, her father would have seen to it that she actually went to school. One afternoon, Ma was sitting on the veranda of their house in Akinwumi Street. With Adah's help, she had cooked the afternoon meal, and they had both eaten. Ma started to undo her hair, ready to have it replaited. Adah had seen her do this a million times and was bored with watching her. There was nothing to do. There was nobody to play with. There was no even any mischief to plan. Then the thought suddenly struck her. Yes, she would go to school. Yes, she would go to school. She would not go to Ladilak because boy was there and they might ask her to pay. It being such an expensive school, she would go to the Methodist school round the corner. It was cheaper. Amma had said that she liked the uniform. Most of her friends attended it. And Mr. Cole, the Sierra Leonean neighbor living next door to them, taught there. Yes, she would go there. Her dress was clean enough, though it was too big, but she thought of something to smarten it up. She went into their room, got an old scarf, twisted it round and round, so much that it looked like a palm tree climber's rope, then tied it round her little waist, pulling her baggy dress up a little. Other children went to school with slates and pencils. She had none. It would look ridiculous for her to march into a classroom without a slate and pencil. Then another thought struck her. She had always watched Pa shave. Pa had a broken slate, on which he usually sharpened a funny sort of curved knife. Adah often watched him do this, fascinated. After sharpening the knife, Pa would rub some carbolic soap lather on his chin and then would shave away. Adah thought of this slate, but the trouble was that it was so small. Just a small piece. It would not take many letters, but a small bit of slate was better than no slate at all. She then slipped it into the top of her dress, knowing full well that her scarf belt would hold it up. Luck was with her. Before she left the room, one of Ma's innumerable friends came for a visit, and the two women were so engrossed in their chit-chat that they did not notice when Adah slipped past them. So here we can see Adah's determination, and let's see what that leads to. Let's continue. Thus, Adah went to school. She ran as fast as she could before anyone could stop her. She did not see any Ma's friend because it was past midday and very hot. Most people were too tired to walk the street at this time. She got tired running and she started to trot like a lame horse. Tired of trotting, she walked. She was soon at the schoolroom. There were two buildings in the compound. One was the church, and she had heard from her friends that the church was never used as a classroom. She knew which was the church because even though she had not started school, she attended Sunday school in the church. With her head up in determination, she walked down the center looking for Mr. Cole's class. This was easy for her because all the classes were separated from each other by low cupboard-like partitions. It was easy to see all the classes by simply walking down the middle. When she saw Mr. Cole, she walked into his class and stood behind him. The other children looked up from their work and stared at Adah in wonder. At first, there was a hush so tangible that one could almost hold it and feel it. Then one silly child started to giggle and others followed suit. Until almost every child in the class was giggling in such an uncontrollable way that Mr. Cole glared at the children who had all gone crazy for all he knew. Then it happened. The child who started the giggle covered her mouth with one hand and pointed at Adah with the other. Mr. Cole was a huge African, very young, very handsome. He was a real black man. His blackness shone like polished black leather. He was a very quiet man, but he used to smile at Adah every time he passed her on his way to school. Adah was sure Mr. Cole would give her that reassuring smile now, in front of all these giggling idiots. Mr. Cole spun round with such alacrity that Adah took a step backward. She was not frightened of Mr. Cole. It was just that the movement was so quick and so unexpected of Mr. Cole, with his great bulk. Only God knew what he expected to find behind him. A big gorilla, or a wandering masquerade, perhaps. But all he saw was Adah staring at him. God bless Mr. Cole. He did not laugh. He took in the situation immediately, gave Adah one of those special smiles, held out his hand, and led her to a boy who had cocoa on his head and gestured her to sit down. Adah did not know what to make of this gesture. She felt Mr. Cole should have asked her why she came, but being reassured by his smile, she said in a little loud voice, "I came to school. My parents would not send me." The class went quiet once more. The boy with the cocoa on his head, who later became a lecturer in Lagos Hospital, gave her a bit of his pencil, and Adah scribbled away, enjoying the smell of cocoa and dried sweat. She never forgot the smell of school. The day ended too soon for Adah's liking, but they must go home, Mr. Cole assured her. Yes, of course, she could come again if she liked, but if her parents would not allow her to come, he would take it upon himself to teach her the alphabet. If only Mr. Cole would not bring her parents into it, Pa would be alright. He would probably cane her, just a few strokes, 6 or so, not much, but Ma would not cane. She would smack and then nag and nag all day long. She thought that it was these experiences with Ma so early in life that had given her such a very low opinion of her own sex, that is her gender. Somebody said somewhere that our characters are usually formed early in life. Yes, that somebody was right. Women still made Adah nervous. They had a way of sapping her self-confidence. She did have 1 or 2 women friends with whom she discussed weather and fashion. But when in real trouble, she would rather look for a man. Men were so solid, so safe. Mr. Cole took her to the store of a woman selling boli, which is the Yoruba name for roasted plantain. These women usually had open pots in which they made a kind of coal fire. These fires were covered with wire gauze, and on the gauze were placed peeled plantains, ready for roasting. Mr. Cole fed her with big boli and told her not to worry. It was another story when they got home. At home, things had gone out of hand. So yeah, we had made known that Adah actually went to school. She decided to go to the Methodist High School, which Mr. Cole, a Sierra Leone neighbor, was a teacher in that school. And when she entered the class, there was some drama that happened. And Mr. Cole welcomed her with warm hearts. And at the end of the whole class session, Mr. Cole bought a roasted plantain, which is known as boli in Yoruba language. Mr. Cole fed her with big boli and told her not to worry. It was another story when they got home. At home, things had gone out of hand. In fact, there was a big hula balloon going on. Pa had been called from work. Ma was with the police being charged with child neglect. And the child that had caused all the fuss was little Adah. Staring at all of them, afraid and yet triumphant, they took Ma to the police station and forced her to drink a bowl of garri with water. Garri is a tasteless sort of flour made from cassava. When cooked and eaten with soup, it is delicious. But when uncooked, the water type Ma was forced to drink, it became a torture, purgatory in fact. Those policemen, I just still wondered where they got all their unwritten laws from. This happened to the police station near Sabo Market. Ma told them with tears in her eye that she could swallow garri no more. She must drink the whole lot, she was told, and told in such language that Adah hid behind Mr. Cole. If Ma did not finish the garri, the policemen went on. They would take her to court. How they laughed at their own jokes, those horrid men, and how they scared. Adah, Ma went on gulping, her eyes dilating. Adah was scared. She started to howl, and Pa, who had said very little, begged the policeman to stop. They should let Ma go now, he explained, for she had learnt her lesson. She was a great talk, very careless, otherwise Adah would not have been able to slip away as she had. Women were like that. They sat in the house, ate, gossip and slept. Not all, sha. They would not even look after their children properly. But the policeman should forgive her now because Pa thought she had had enough garri. The policeman considered this plea, then looked once more at Ma, cupping the garri to her mouth with her finger, and smiled. He took pity on Ma, but warned her that if such a thing should happen again, he personally would take her to court. You know what that means? He thundered. Ma nodded. She knew court meant two things: a heavy fine, which she would never be able to afford, or prison, which she called policing. They advised her to sell one of her colorful lapels and send Adah to school because she looked like a child who was keen to learn. At this point, Ma gave Adah a queer look, a look that contained a mixture of fear, love, and wonder. Adah shrank back, still clutching Mr. Cole. When they got home from the station, the news that had already got round, Adah had nearly sent her mother to prison. So frequently was this sentence repeated that Adah began to be quite proud of her impulsive move. She felt triumphant, especially when she had Pa's friend advising him to make sure he allowed Adah to start school soon. This discussion took place on the veranda, where the visitors were downing 2 kegs of palm wine to wet their parched throats. When they departed, Adah was left alone with her parents. Things were not as bad as she thought they would be. Pa fished out the cane and gave her a few strokes for Ma's benefit. Adah cried after caning. He came and talked to her seriously, just as if she were a grown-up. He called her by her pet name, Nnenna, which means father's mother, which was not so far from the meaning of Adah's real name. How he came by the name was a story in itself. When Pa's mother was dying, she had promised Pa that she would come again, this time as his daughter. She was sorry she could not bring him up. She died when Pa was only 5. She would come again, she had promised, to compensate for leaving him so young. Well, Pa grew up a married man at the Christ Church in Lagos. So, Adah's parents married at the Christ Church in Lagos, which was a Christian church, but Pa did not forget his mother's promise. The only reservation he had was that he did not want a girl for his first child. Well, his mother was impatient. Ma had a girl. Adah was the very picture of his mother. Even though Adah was born 2 months prematurely, it was quite possible that the little damp monkey-like thing with unformed face was his comeback mother. So she was loaded with strings of names like Nnenna, Adanna, Adaeze. Adaeze means princess, that is daughter of a king. Sometimes they called her Adaeze, sometimes Adanna, and sometimes Nnenna. But this string of names was too long and too confusing for Adah's Yoruba friends and playmates, and even more so for impatient Ma. So she became just Adah. Adah didn't mind this. It was short, everybody could pronounce it. When she grew up and was attending Methodist Girls High School in Lagos, where she came in contact with European missionaries, her name was one of the first ones they learned and pronounced correctly. This usually gave her a start against the girls with long names like Adebisi Gbangboshi or Oluwafunmilayo Olorunshogo. So that was how Adah started school. Pa would not bear of her going to Methodist primary. She was to go to the posh one, Ladlak. Success in life would surely have come earlier if Pa had lived, but he died soon after, and Adah and her brother was transferred to an inferior school. Despite all this, Adah's dream never left. So at the end of the day, Adah actually went to school, and not even just anyhow school. She attended Ladlak Institute, but she would have finished, and she would have followed her career path or her dream of becoming a successful person in life. But along the line, her father died, which made she and her brother to go to an inferior school. Let's continue and see what leads to his death and what ends Adah's life. It was understandable that Ma refused to take her to see the new lawyer because Adah had started school only a few weeks before the preparation of the great man's arrival. Ma got really furious with Adah for asking such a thing. You made me drink Gary only last month until I nearly burst my stomach. All because you said you wanted school. Now we gave you school. You want the wolf? No, you won't go. You chose school. To school you must go. Now until you go grey. How right Ma was, Adah would never stop learning. She had been a student ever since. Adah's face had fallen at this. If only she had known before, she would have staged her school drama after the arrival of the lawyer Nweze. But as it turned out, she missed little. The women practiced their songs several times and showed off their uniform too, which they had given the name Ezidije Jide Goli Omeoba, meaning when a good man owes a woman, she becomes a queen. They wove the name of the uniform into the song, and it was a joy to hear and see these women, happy in their innocence, just like children. Their wants were simple and easily met, not like those of their children who later got caught up in the entangled web of industrialization. Adah's Ma had no experience of having to keep up mortgage payments. She never knew what it was to have a family car or worry about its innards. She had no worries about pollution, the pollution explosion or race. Was it surprising, therefore, that she was happy, being unaware of the so-called joys of civilization and all its pitfalls? They went to the wharf that day, these happy women, to welcome someone who had been to have a taste of that civilization, which was soon afterwards to hook them up like opium. That day, they were happy to welcome their man. They went in their uniform. Adah still remembered its color. It had a dark velvety background with pale blue drawing of feathers on it. The headscarf was red, and it was tied in such a way that it displayed their straightened hair. The shoes they wore were of black patent leather called 99. No one really knew why. Maybe it was the rhyme of the repetition. In any case, they wore those 99 shoes with their Ezidiji, Jide Golin, Omeoba, and bought new gods which they covered with colorful beads. When these gods were rattled, they produced sounds like the Spanish samba with a wild sort of animal overtone. They had had a good time. Adah was told later they danced happily at the wharf, shaking their colorful gods in the air. The European arrival gaped at them. They have never seen anything like it before. The climax of it all was when an Englishman took their photographs. He even signed out women with babies on their backs and took several shots of them. Ma and her friends were really happy to have their pictures taken by Europeans. These were the days before Nigerian independence, when nearly every boat from England brought hundreds of English graduates and doctors to work in the schools and hospitals of Lagos. The few gaps in the magical story of Nweze's arrival were filled in by Pa. All the abuser men went to welcome him the following Sunday. They could not leave their places of work during the week. Pa said that the lawyer would not swallow pounded yam anymore. He would not even eat a piece of bone. The meat they cooked for him had to be sealed for days until it was almost a pulp. I felt like being sick, Pa said as it spat on the floor. It reminded me of the sickly, watery food we ate in the army. There's one thing, thoughts. Pa went on. He did not bring a white woman with him. All Pa's friends agreed with him. That was a good thing. If Nweze had brought a white woman to Ibuza, Oboshi would have sent leprosy to her. Remembering all these taboos and superstitions of the Western Igbos of Nigeria, Adah could not help laughing to herself. She had been brought up with them. They were part of her. Yet, now in the 70s, the thought of them amused her. The funniest thing about all these superstitions and beliefs was that they still had a powerful grip on the minds of her people. No one dared ignore any of them. Leprosy was a disease with which the goddess of the biggest river in Ibuza cursed anyone who dared to float one of the town's traditions. Well, Pa and his friend toasted the goddess of the river Obuchi for not allowing lawyer Nweze to go astray. That Obuchi was strong enough to guide the thoughts of Nweze, demonstrated her power. They toasted her again. Later, Adah did not know what came over that river Obuchi, though. Oil was discovered very near her, and she allowed the oilmen to dig into her without causing them with leprosy. The oilmen were mainly white, which was a surprise, or perhaps she had long been declared redundant by the greater gods. That would not have surprised Adah, for everybody would be declared redundant these days, even goddesses. If not redundant, then she must have been in a whip van wrinkle sleep, for she allowed Hausa soldiers to come and massacre her sons, and some Ibuza men had married white men without getting leprosy. Only last year, an Ibuza girl graduate had married a white American, but she was faster than most of her sons and daughters at catching up with the times. Anyway, the talk about Nweze's arrival went on for months and months. Adah talked about him to all her friends at school, telling them that he was her cousin. Well, everybody else talked big, so she might as well. But she made a secret vow to herself that she would go to this United Kingdom one day. So that's where her determination is actually coming in. Her arrival there would be the pinnacle of her ambition. She dared not to tell anyone. They might decide to have her head examined or something. A small girl of her kind, with a father who was only a railwayman, and a mother who knew nothing but the Igbo Bible and the Igbo Anglican hymn book, from the introduction to the index, and who still thought that Jerusalem was at the right hand of God. That she would go to the United Kingdom one day was a dream she kept to herself, but dreams soon assumed substance. It lived with her, just like a presence. Thank you. And that's the end of chapter 1.